Detective Talk of the Day, September the 5th, 11:15 in the morning. Day is 2, version 2.0. We're going to look at sensitive FT. And we're going to take a quick look at the mono program. A person using this machine in high iron may decide to have an adjacent mono program set up. It could possibly do you some good, okay? If you're going to use multi-frequency to hunt with. Alright? Now, that nickel is down there, and I've got 3 2x4 stacked up here. Of course, that nickel is elevated. There's 4 colonial nails in below that nickel. I'll show it to you. But we're going to even sweep without the nickel up there, okay? Sensitive FT to start with. Okay, this is channel 6, 40 max band, 2.5 reactivity in all of this video. That's just how I'm showing it. Alright, silencer number 1. Frequency max at 6. Alright, now there's some good information in this video for the DS2 users. I promise you. You might learn something you didn't know about this machine. You hear that signal? And it gives an ID. See that ID in the window? Now remember, that's channel 6. This is channel 0, so if your machine noise cancels 0, or if that's where you put it, like I have here, you hear that signal. No ID and ever comes in the window. Channel 6, I'll let you listen again. You see that ID. Now, watch this, because you may not know this, okay? Sharpshooter's trying to educate people. I'm going over here. Now, I just swept the machine in channel 6. And you see the ID and you hear the signal. So I'm going over here into settings. Turn FET on. It was off up until now in this video. So now I've got it on. You see that? Alright. So we're going to hear the same signal. But look at that meter. It always shows a number 1. Sweeping through there, left to right, that damn 01 is in the meter. Now if I hover that coil, I may get a look at a 60 in there occasionally. But on sweeps, you're in the wild of 01. I'm turning it off. Alright, now I'm sweeping again. So the signal quality is the same, but you see the ID in the window. Alright? And also know channel 6 there gives ID, channel 0 doesn't, and the signal on channel 0 is inferior to channel 6. That was silencer number 1. Alright? Now, before I take that nickel off of there, we're going to mono program. Mono programs at 2.5 reactivity. This is 17 killer, 6.1 disc. You could probably run this machine like this in the wild. Speed is 2.5 and the silencer is at 1. What happens here? Listen. Oh boy, look at that signal. See the ID though, the ID is high. So if you see that high ID like that in a sight, you might think iron, huh? Well, you see that nickel down there. Now we're going to sweep this same deal here without the nickels so you can see. Okay, now we're going to come down in the frequency. There's 13 kilohertz. So we still hear, we got a 97 in the window. 8 kilohertz. A no-go, okay? 32 kilohertz. See the ID? 90. 40.4 kilohertz. Two-way signal, 85 in the window. It is a US nickel down there. Okay. What we'll do now, we're going to just remove the old nickel. It's gone. So those 4 colonial nails are still down there. Now, they're not ultra big or anything. There's 40 kilohertz. All iron tone. There's 17 kilohertz. All iron tone. The nickel is not down there. Sensitive FT. Silencer's at 1. Frequency max is at 6. That's what gave the best signal when the nickel was up there. What do we hear now? We hear all iron tone. We don't hear that same signature, do we? There's the nickel. It's back up there. Now I'm still in channel 6. Silencer 1, sensitive FT. You hear that? Different signature. Okay? But that mono program, even at 17 kilohertz, listen to that. Now in a high iron side, person might want to run this thing at like 32 or 40. There's 32. And we're even going to dial the disc up. We'll dial it to 6.6. What does this sound like? You see the ID. A no-brainer signal. Now we're going to rotate on this. 60 in the window. Sensitive FT, we're rotated. Okay, now since I've got this thing in sensitive FT, silencer 1. Now here is the, this is the most difficult direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going back in here. We're going to turn the frequency max back to 0. So you can hear that signal. No ID. So we're going to pivot a little bit on this. Here's about 45 degrees. You see that ID. Okay, here's about 15 degrees. 20 degrees. Back over here in the hard way. Alright. Now, there's the nails. Now, they can be arranged, you know. Now, you could have a larger single piece of iron down there versus multiple nails. Alright. But you can clearly draw a few conclusions about watching this video in that machine right there. As far as frequency goes, now I didn't show any silencer but one. A silencer 2 in this test is a fail even at channel 6, by the way, in case you're wondering. With that coil height, okay, I'll even put this nickel back up here. With this coil height here, I'll show you here right quick. We'll go back to channel 6. Okay, silencer 2 is a fail, but I believe if I come down 1 2x4 and sweep this, tries to hit it, okay? So there's a lot goes on, and again, you know, now you have to remember, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this right here. The reason why this has probably never been talked about with the DS2, what I've been showing, you got people like Iffy Signals that uses his blocks, which are very good. I'm not knocking his blocks. You got some other people out there. Calabash uses maybe 2x4s or whatever. Well, that's 2x4s there. But notice, you see that? You see how thin those are. So what I did is I incrementally, see, if I put this up here like so, and I put this nickel on here, that's a no detect situation. left to right with 2 or 3 2x4s up there. Even in channel 6, it's a no-go. So what I do is I go to channel 6, I start adding these, and then I sweep channel 6. I add another one if it's a fail. When it starts passing in channel 6, I stop. And guess what? Channel 0 is usually a fail. Alright? So what that means is, you know, depending on the size of the iron, the shape of the iron, and the distance the non-ferrous target is above, channel 6 could pass with higher frequency versus channel 0. And now remember, channel 1 and 2 run lower frequency than channels 4, 5, and 6. So it's a sliding scale. You understand what I'm saying? I could stack these up here. It's possible I may get channel 6 to give a somewhat good signal, but not a real banger signal. And then if I go to something like a channel 2 or 3, it may be a real bad signal. Channel 0 would be terrible. Channel 1 may be terrible. So that's what I did, okay? And that simulates your different scenarios you may see in the wild, more so. And it exposed that machine right there, doing frequency shift. So yeah, if you've got blocks like IPI signals and you just drop them down, for example, or even sharpshooter using just plain 2x4s. You see what I'm saying? See, if I put these 2 2x4s up here like so, and put this 2x4 over here, and put a nickel down in there, and a piece of iron even under this 2x4 right here, and sweep, well, I don't know what would happen. Because I can't adjust the iron height above the nickel there. See what I'm saying? That makes a difference, as you can clearly see from all the videos that I've done. So there will be parameters for channel 6 to be superior to channel 0. A parameter has to be met with a detecting scenario. The question is does that exist in your sight? Well, nobody knows. You won't know until you sweep the detector over it. Now remember, I can't say all. It's not all, but on most of them, you can rotate and get a good signal. But remember, you got to have something to tell you to rotate, unless you just keep roaming around to the side and you come in from a different angle, say running channel 0. Okay? And you can also tell from watching this video, having iron TID on, well, I guess you could say if you got a signal locked up on 1.5 meter and you heard something funny, you could rotate on it. Maybe that's not a bad strategy. But even sweeping from the good direction, or the hard way, the machine won't come off of that 0-1 in the meter. Unlike turning it off. Then it'll start giving ID in sensitive FT sometimes. Or a lot of times. Okay, now you might hear it in the wild and you may have to make a more controlled sweep to see your ID, but in channel 0, it won't even give an ID if you do get locked up on it. Meaning you're like, well, what is that? And you may sweep it again, you're like, well, that ain't nothing, there's no ID in the window. So yeah, one of the strategies with this DS2, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're running iron TID off on this DS2, iron TID off, and you're running a 6.8 disc, and you don't have any notch in the lower area, let's say like the number 7, 8, 9, and 10, you don't have any notch in them areas, if that machine is giving some kind of audio, no matter how short, it's just not a pure iron tone. If it's giving audio and you don't see any ID in that window, you should be very suspicious of that target. Remember, it's not reporting a 7, 8, or 9. You didn't see that in this test, did you? So it's the reason we couldn't see it in the window, it's reporting a 1. And when you turn iron tit off, you won't ever see a 1 in that screen. That's the iron range. So that might be a little tip for you there. The DS2 is cutting up, sweeping it, and you don't see any ID. Maybe at the very least on a situation like that, you should rotate and re-sweep. See what happens. Well, on that scenario there, if you do that, you would hear a clear, clean tone with a 50s or 60s ID in a window. This is going to conclude the Detect and Talk of the day. I hope you enjoy your day.